There is a moment, quiet, unspoken, when the world you've known begins to dissolve. Not in fire, not in drama, but in something far more haunting. The slow recognition that you are no longer who you used to be. The mirror still shows your face, but something beneath it has shifted. You begin to see through things, the roles, the noise, the rituals of belonging. And what once comforted you now feels hollow. This is not a breakdown. This is the threshold, the beginning of something ancient and irreversible. A journey that will not ask for your success, but for your soul. And if you have felt this pull, this quiet ache to step outside everything false, then stay. Because what you're about to hear will not give you answers. It will give you a mirror, one that does not flatter, one that demands you look deeper. Welcome to the path few dare to walk. This is how to walk alone and not break. There comes a time in every soul's life when the noise of the world no longer satisfies, when the applause feels hollow and the masks begin to suffocate. A quiet tension starts to rise, not from outside, but from deep within. It is the voice of the self calling you away from everything you've been taught to seek, away from validation, away from imitation. It is the moment the old self cracks, and in that fracture, something sacred begins to awaken. To walk alone is not to isolate the body, but to reclaim the soul. It is not loneliness, it is liberation. But make no mistake, it is not easy. For the path of individuation, the journey to psychological wholeness requires the death of everything false. You will have to confront the shadow, that dark twin that has lived beside you all your life. The one you buried in silence, denied in daylight, feared in moments of honesty. Jung taught that what we do not bring to consciousness appears in our lives as fate. And so you must meet it. This shadow not to conquer it, but to integrate it. To sit with it like a wounded animal and learn what it has carried for you. There is no growth without descent. Before the hero rises, he must fall. Before light is born, there is chaos. The myths knew this. The old stories spoke of underworlds of dragons guarding treasure of gods, torn apart and remade. These were not fantasies. They were roadmaps of the psyche, archetypes of inner transformation. And your journey will be no different. If you are to become whole, you must enter the forest at the darkest point, where no path has been made. You must lose your way, to find what was never lost, only forgotten. In dreams, the unconscious speaks, in symbols the language of the soul. A locked door, a vast ocean, a crumbling tower. These are not random. They are invitations, messages from the deeper self, bypassing logic, reaching through the veil. Listen closely. The unconscious is not your enemy, it is your origin. It is where the true self sleeps, buried beneath years of adaptation and repression. And now, as you walk alone, you begin to feel its pull. A magnetic draw into mystery, into the unknown, into yourself. But beware, the persona will resist. That social mask you built to survive in a world that rewards performance over presence. It will whisper, "Stay the same, don't change, be liked." But the self is louder now, and it is not interested in your comfort. It wants your authenticity, the real you. Even if it means being misunderstood, even if it means losing what you once thought was essential. Individuation is not an addition. It is a subtraction. A stripping away of the false until only the essential remains. To walk alone is to leave the village of consensus reality. To stop drinking from the well of popular opinion, and this will terrify the ego. The ego craves belonging, certainty, praise, but the soul craves depth, meaning realness. And the price of the soul's emergence is the ego's unraveling. This is the sacred wound necessary, wholly unavoidable. You will question everything: your values, your desires, your identity. And this doubt is not weakness. It is the sign that your old identity is dying, making space for something more true. The anima and animus will rise in this solitude, the inner feminine and masculine energies within you. If you are a man, the anima will come as a whisper of feeling, vulnerability, intuition, beauty. If you are a woman, the animus may speak through assertiveness, clarity, will, and fire these energies once projected onto others. Now return home to you. Integration is the goal. Union, wholeness, no longer fragmented, no longer dependent. You become your own source. And it is here within this lonely crucible that you start to glimpse the self. Not the ego, not the image, but the self vast, eternal, untouched by the world's noise. It does not shout, it does not beg, it simply waits for you to remember. And when you do, something ancient stirs, a recognition, a remembering, that you were never broken, only buried, only asleep. You will begin to notice symbols around you, synchronicities that defy logic, a song playing at just the right moment, a book falling open to the page you needed, a stranger saying the words you were too afraid to speak aloud. This is not coincidence. This is the unconscious aligning with the conscious. This is the dance of meaning re-emerging in a world that told you life was random. Jung called this synchronicity, a glimpse into the tapestry beneath events, the unseen order that whispers, "You are not lost, you are being led." But the deeper you go, the more you will shed. Relationships built on illusion will fall away. Goals driven by ego will feel hollow. Even your own voice will begin to change, as if it has been waiting to speak without fear. And that voice, your true voice, will not need to scream. It will not need to convince. Its power will come from its authenticity, its rootedness in something deeper than approval. This is what it means to walk alone and not break, because you are no longer walking as who you were. You are walking as who you are becoming. The world may not understand this transformation. They may call it madness, arrogance, selfishness. Let them. You are not here to be understood by those who fear depth. You are here to remember, to awaken, to burn away the false and stand in the ashes, not as a victim, but as a phoenix. And yes, there will be nights when the silence feels unbearable. When the weight of your own becoming crushes the breath from your chest, do not flee, sit with it. That pain is sacred. It is the sound of your soul stretching beyond its former limits. To walk alone is to realize that solitude is not emptiness. It is intimacy, intimacy with the self. The one you abandoned to fit in, the one you betrayed to be loved. And now in the sacred stillness, that self comes back, not with anger, but with grace, with a whisper. Welcome home. I've been waiting. And you weep not from sadness, but from the relief of being whole again. The road to wholeness is not safe. There's a lie we are told from the moment we are born, that if we do everything right, life will be safe. That if we obey, smile, follow the rules, and suppress what disturbs the surface, we will be loved. But beneath that polished illusion is a truth no one dares speak. The path to wholeness is not safe. It is not clean. It is not linear. It is not applauded. It is a confrontation, a breaking, a descent. And it begins the moment you stop pretending that you are fine. To become whole is not to become perfect. It is to embrace the totality of what you are, the beauty and the horror, the sacred and the profane, the light and the shadow. Jung understood this, that wholeness is not found in ascension, but in integration, in facing what the conscious mind avoids, in looking into the dark mirror and recognizing the face staring back as your own. The unconscious does not care for your comfort. It cares for your completion. And to be complete, you must be willing to carry what you once exiled. You were taught to disown parts of yourself, to call them bad, shameful, unworthy. But they did not disappear. They went underground, into the shadow, where they became distorted, bitter, hungry for attention. And now, as you begin to awaken, they rise again. Not to punish you, but to be reclaimed. To walk the road to wholeness is to welcome them home. To say, I see you. I remember you. Let us walk together. The descent is the first initiation, downward, inward, through the ruins of what you thought was real. Your beliefs, your image, your safety nets, all are shattered. And as the fragments fall, you meet the archetypes, the inner gods and demons that have lived in you all along. The warrior, the orphan, the lover, the destroyer. They do not speak in words. They move in symbols and dreams, in impulses. You must learn their language. You must bow to their power without being consumed by it. For archetypes are not to be obeyed blindly nor ignored. They are energies to be integrated. In this realm, dreams become maps that snake in your sleep. It is not random. It is transformation, shedding skin. That endless hallway, a symbol of your search for meaning. The recurring figure you cannot face. Perhaps your shadow clothed in a mask. Symbols speak truth more clearly than facts ever will. They bypass intellect and awaken instinct. They are the soul's alphabet. But nothing is given freely here. This is sacred ground. And to walk it, you must give up your illusions. The persona, the mask you wear to be accepted, must crack. You must feel the discomfort of no longer knowing who you are. This is the crucible, the place of alchemical fire where the ego burns and the self begins to rise. Not the small self that clings to identity, but the vast self that watches, waits, and remembers. You will feel fear, terror, even. Because this path demands sacrifice, it asks you to give up the lie of control, to surrender the known for the unknowable. And that is why most never take the first step. They decorate their cages, polish their masks, and call it a life. But those who dare, the ones who bleed, weep, and scream through the night, those are the ones who emerge, not unscarred, but reborn. And this rebirth is not gentle. It is violent, sacred, primal. You will face inner deaths, the death of who you thought you had to be. The death of inherited beliefs, the death of the dream. That safety lies in conformity, and from those ashes, something ancient will stir. A knowing, a presence. A clarity that cannot be explained, only lived. The self does not emerge in comfort. It emerges in collapse. In the silence after everything has fallen apart, in the hollow ache of existential despair. When the outer world offers no answers, and the inner world begins to whisper. It does not shout, it does not argue, it simply waits for you to be still enough to hear. That stillness is your initiation, that silence is your temple. You may be tempted to run back, to rebuild the life that once numbed you. But the old life no longer fits. You've seen too much, felt too deeply. You know now that there is more, and that knowing is a burden. It isolates you. You become a stranger to your old circles. Your laughter changes. Your pace slows. You begin to crave silence more than noise, depth, more than distraction, presence more than praise. This is the cost and the reward. The anima and animus rise here too. If you are fragmented, they will haunt you in projection. You will seek completion in lovers, friends, heroes. You will think someone else holds the key. But the key is within. When you claim your inner masculine and feminine, when they bow to one another in respect, you begin to heal the ancient split. You become sovereign, no longer ruled by craving, no longer seduced by illusion. And from that wholeness, a new kind of love is born, not attachment, not dependency, but sacred witnessing. You do not love to fill a void. You love because you are already full. You do not speak to be heard. You speak because your silence has weight. You become a presence, not a performance. But the world does not know what to do with presence. It is afraid of it. It mocks what it cannot understand. And so you will be called names. Arrogant, cold, delusional. Let them speak. You are not here to be understood. You are here to be whole. And wholeness cannot be explained. It must be embodied. To walk this road is to abandon all maps, to enter the forest without a guide, to fall into yourself and trust that the self will rise to meet you. It will, but not on your terms, not on your timeline. The self is not a goal. It is a revelation, a remembering, a homecoming to what you have always been. And so you walk, bruised, silent, awake, with the fire of transformation still smoldering in your chest. You are not safe, but you are real. And in a world of sleepwalkers, that is the most dangerous thing you can be. You have begun the return, but you will not return the same. Become who you truly are, not who they told you to be. There is a wound that does not bleed, a wound shaped by silence, conformity, and the invisible weight of what others expected you to be. From the earliest days before you could name yourself, the world began naming you. Good, bad, smart, difficult, worthy, unworthy. You were given a mask before you could recognize your own face. And so began the forgetting, the slow burial of the real beneath the acceptable. But the soul does not forget. Beneath the polished persona, beneath the compromises and roles it waits. Bruised, buried, but burning. Whispering not in language, but in longing. Become who you truly are, not who they told you to be. You feel it sometimes, don't you? That quiet ache when you're alone. That strange tension beneath the surface of your success. The dissonance between what you show and what you feel. That is not weakness. That is the self knocking. Not the ego. Not the mask. But the self, the totality of who you are, known and unknown, visible and hidden. And the longer you ignore it, the louder it calls. Not through comfort, but through crisis. Through anxiety, through depression, through the slow erosion of meaning. These are not flaws. They are signals, invitations, the soul's rebellion against a life too small for its truth. Carl Jung wrote that we all wear masks, the persona built to navigate society, to fit in, to survive. But what begins as protection becomes prison. You begin to believe the role is real, that who you pretend to be is who you are. And so the true self dims not out of weakness, but out of exile. It waits in dreams, in symbols, in the moments of stillness that terrify you, because they remind you of what you've lost. You cannot become whole until you meet what you abandoned. You cannot be free until you confront who you were told not to be. The path to authenticity is not about adding. It is about remembering, unlearning, shedding the inherited layers. What your parents needed you to be, what the culture rewarded, what your fear created. You were not born to play a part in someone else's play. You were born to create, to feel, to awaken. But this requires descent, a journey inward, where the light of consciousness meets the darkness of the unconscious, where the ego steps aside and the shadow steps forward. And this shadow, though feared, is not your enemy. It is your other half. The forgotten twin holding the power, the passion, the pieces of your soul you disowned to be safe. To meet the shadow is to reclaim what you were told to repress, your rage, your desire, your hunger for more. Your knowing that something about this life, this world is false. You were taught to doubt that voice, to numb it, to silence it with distraction. But it was never wrong, it was inconvenient. And the path to becoming who you truly are will often look like rebellion, because when the self emerges, it does not ask for permission, it demands presence, it disrupts, it sheds, and it calls you to step beyond the narratives written for you by the hands of fear. You will lose people. You will lose praise. You will lose the comfort of belonging to a system built on pretending. But what you gain is priceless. Your own soul, the fire in your chest that no longer flickers, but roars, the spine that no longer bends for approval, the voice that no longer trembles in truth. You were never meant to be tame. You were meant to be true. And truth is wild. It does not sit politely. It does not make everyone comfortable. It liberates. It shakes. It resurrects. Jung said that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Not who you were conditioned to be. Not who your trauma shaped, but the self beneath it all. And this self is not a brand. It is not an aesthetic. It is not found in books or borrowed philosophies. It is found in your depths, in your wounds, in your solitude, in the strange dreams you keep having, in the moments you can't explain. The self speaks in symbols, in synchronicity, in the strange timing of things. It does not negotiate with the rational mind. It waits for you to listen differently, to feel more than you analyze, to remember more than you perform. To become who you truly are is to die. 100 deaths of illusions, of attachments, of borrowed beliefs. It is to walk through fire and not rush out. To stand in the ruin of your old identity and feel everything it kept you from. And then to rebuild, not with the blueprints of others, but with the bones of your own truth. This is inner alchemy, turning pain into purpose, shadow into strength, fragmentation into wholeness. It does not happen quickly. It does not happen cleanly. But it happens the moment you stop running and start listening. You are not too much. You are just told to be less by those who fear their own expansion. You are not broken. You are simply asked to break yourself into acceptable shapes. But the time for that is over. The time of silence, of shrinking, of bending is over. The time of truth has come. And it begins with a question only you can answer. Who are you beneath the roles, beneath the fear, beneath the mask? This is not about becoming something new. It is about unbecoming everything that isn't you. And that process will feel like loss before it feels like freedom. You will mourn who you thought you had to be. You will grieve the identities that once protected you. But in that grief, something sacred will bloom, a presence, a stillness, a clarity that does not need to explain itself. That is your essence. Raw, unfiltered, unapologetic. The world does not need more perfect people. It needs more real people, people willing to stand in their truth, even when it trembles. People who have faced their shadow and integrated its wisdom. People who are not afraid of their own depth. That is who you are meant to be. Not another echo, not another mask, but a mirror of the possible. a living invitation for others to awaken. And so the call remains ancient and urgent. Become who you truly are. Not who they told you to be. Not who you were praised for being, but the you that existed before the world taught you to forget. The one who feels deeply, who questions, who creates, who remembers, the one who never needed to perform to be worthy. The one who waits beneath the noise, ready to rise, ready to return, ready to reclaim everything that was buried. Not for applause, not for fame, but for truth, for integrity, for soul, the silence that awakens your soul. There is a silence the world fears, not the silence of absence or disinterest, but the ancient living silence that emerges when the noise of illusion falls away. It is not empty, it is full of everything we've buried to survive. In this silence, the soul begins to speak, not with words, but with symbols, sensations, an aching that has no name. And if you dare to sit with it, not distract, not escape, but truly sit, you will begin to hear something that changes everything. Not information, not advice, but truth. The kind that cuts and heals at once, the kind that asks nothing but your attention. This is the silence that awakens your soul. We live in a culture afraid of stillness, a world that equates value with noise, visibility with worth movement, with progress. But there is a wisdom that can only be found in the quiet. Carl Jung knew this. He retreated into his own depths, away from society, into solitude, into dreams, into the realm of the unconscious, where the psyche reveals itself, not in explanations, but in images, symbols that rise like forgotten gods, demanding our reverence, not our analysis. And when we become still enough, when we stop numbing ourselves with the trivial, these symbols return in our dreams, our art, our moods, our suffering. They speak in the silence beneath our distractions, calling us inward, homeward. But silence is terrifying if you've built your life around avoiding yourself. If your worth is measured by productivity, if your identity is tied to others' perception, then stillness feels like death. And in a way, it is a death of the ego's illusions, a death of all the ways you kept yourself small to be accepted. But this death is sacred. It is the doorway to what Jung called individuation, and the unfolding of the true self from the false constructs. The journey back to your center. And that journey does not begin in a crowd. It begins in silence. Sit in it. Do not run. Do not explain it away. Do not try to fix what silence reveals. Just listen. The psyche speaks when it feels safe, and silence is its sanctuary. Beneath the chatter of thought, beneath the roles and fears, there is a deeper voice, quieter, older, but infinitely wiser. The voice of the self. It does not shout. It does not demand. It invites, beckons, whispers through symbols you've seen 1,000 times, but never understood. That recurring dream, that old memory that will not fade, that feeling that surges when you're alone. These are the breadcrumbs. Follow them. They lead to the place you lost yourself, and the place you will find yourself again. In silence, the unconscious begins to rise. And what it brings is not always pleasant. The shadow comes first. The repressed, the shamed, the rejected. The parts you locked away to be loved, they come back not to destroy you, but to be seen, to be integrated. You will feel resistance. You will want to flee back into the comfort of distraction. But if you can stay, if you can hold that gaze with the parts you fear, you will begin to reclaim your power. For what we deny controls us. What we face becomes part of us. This is the alchemy of the soul, turning wounds into wisdom, shame into strength. And in this quiet confrontation, something miraculous happens. The inner world reorganizes. What once felt chaotic begins to reveal a deeper order. The archetypes begin to emerge, not as concepts, but as energies moving through you. The inner warrior, the sage, the child, the lover, the destroyer. These are not roles to perform. They are ancient currents within your psyche, seeking expression, integration. They rise in silence because they cannot be summoned by will. They must be invited by presence. And your stillness is that invitation. You begin to see that everything you were running from is the very material needed for your transformation, that your anxiety was a message, that your depression was a protest, that your pain was never meaningless. It was misunderstood. In the silence, you stop pathologizing your soul and start listening to it. You begin to ask different questions. Not, how do I fix myself, but what is my soul asking for? Not how do I become better, but how do I become more whole? And this shift changes everything. Dreams become oracles, synchronicities become signposts, emotions become guides. You stop seeing life as random and start sensing the symbolic order underneath it all. This is the domain of depth psychology, not to cure you, but to return you to yourself. Not to make you functional, but to make you real. You were not born to be efficient. You were born to be whole. And that wholeness cannot be manufactured. It must be remembered, reclaimed. And silence is the sacred space in which that memory returns. But silence is not passive. It is active surrender. It is a letting go of the compulsion to manage, to control, to define, and it is the trust that your soul knows what it's doing even when your mind does not. It is the humility to kneel before mystery and say, I am ready. Show me, break me open, fill me with what is true. That is the posture of the one who awakens. Not pride, not certainty, but openness, reverence. A willingness to feel without flinching, to descend without guarantees, to rise without applause. You will not be the same. That is the risk and the gift. Silence will strip away what was never yours, and it will give you what cannot be taken. You will walk differently, speak with more gravity, love with more presence. You will stop needing to be everything for everyone because you are finally enough for yourself. This is not arrogance. It is alignment with the self, with the soul, with the deep truth that has waited lifetimes to be remembered. So enter the silence not just once, but again and again. Make it your temple, your refuge, your teacher. When the world screams, fall silent. When you feel lost, become still. When you do not know what to do, go inward. The answers will not come in volume. They will come in echoes, in dreams, in symbols, in the way your heart softens when something ancient stirs within you. This is the silence that awakens your soul. And once awakened, you will never go back to sleep the same way again. Why you must break to be reborn. There's a secret written into the structure of every myth, every transformation, every sacred rite of passage before anything is reborn. It must break not partially, not politely, but fully violently, like a shell shattering from the inside out. This is the law of the psyche, the pattern of the soul's unfolding. You will not become whole by staying intact. You will not become yourself by remaining comfortable. Something within you must rupture. Something must fall apart. Not because you failed, but because the deeper self demands emergence, and the small self must make room. That is why you must break to be reborn. We were taught to fear the breaking, to hide it, to mask the cracks with smiles and distractions. But what if the fracture is the initiation? What if the moment you shatter is not your destruction, but your unveiling? Carl Jung knew this intimately. He did not rise through comfort. He descended into chaos, into visions, into dreams, into the abyss of his unconscious. He let go of certainty and stepped into the underworld of his psyche. Because only there, in the dark womb of the unknown, can the next version of you begin to gestate. The unconscious is not a void, it is a crucible. It contains the elements you abandoned, the parts you deemed unworthy, the desires you suppressed, the fears you pretended not to feel. When you break, they return. They rise with fury, with sorrow, with truth. The ego calls it crisis, the soul calls it alchemy, because transformation is never neat. It burns, it humiliates, it demands a surrender so complete it feels like death. And in a way, it is the death of false identity. The death of the one you constructed to be loved, to be safe, to be acceptable. But what emerges in its place is not fabricated, it is remembered, felt, known in the marrow of your bones. The self-whole ancient luminous was never gone, only buried, and the breaking is the excavation, the sacred collapse that returns you to the source. This is the dark night of the soul, a phrase romanticized by poets but lived in agony by seekers. It is the hour when nothing makes sense, when all the lights go out, when your mind cannot fix what is crumbling, and the only way through is down. In myths, the hero always descends before he rises, into caves, underworlds, prisons, storms. This is not accidental. It is archetypal. You are not failing when you fall. You are fulfilling the design, and the psyche requires confrontation, not with enemies outside, but with the inner forces you fled. The shadow, the orphaned child, the unlived life. And when you meet them, not with fear, but with openness, they begin to transform. The monster becomes a guide. The pain becomes a portal. The grief becomes sacred ground. There is no resurrection without crucifixion, no phoenix without fire, no awakening without disillusionment. And this is what the modern world refuses to understand. We are taught to bypass pain, to numb it, to medicate it into silence. But the soul does not heal through avoidance. It heals through presence, through immersion, through staying with what hurts until it reveals what it hides. The self does not grow in perpetual light. It grows in cycles, in death and rebirth, in descent and emergence. And every breaking you endure is not an interruption of your path, it is your path. Do not rush to fix what is falling. Let it fall. Let the tower crumble. Let the mask burn. Let the old dreams disintegrate. You will be tempted to cling to them, to reconstruct the lie just a little longer. But every moment you delay, you deny the new life, trying to be born through you. Trust the breaking. Trust the mess. Trust the unraveling of all you thought you needed. Because it is only when you are empty that the truth has space to enter. You may feel alone in this, but you are not. Every soul that has ever awakened has broken first. Every prophet, poet, mystic, and healer has been cracked open by life. They did not escape the fire, they became it. They let it purify what was false and illuminate what was real. You are being initiated into that lineage, into that sacred madness that is not pathology but passage, a rite older than language, a wisdom deeper than reason. Jung wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." And this is the wisdom we try to avoid, that suffering has purpose, not moral punishment, but psychological necessity. The pain is not the enemy. It is the teacher, the refiner, the sculptor of your becoming. And the more you resist it, the more it haunts you. But when you open to it, truly open it, transforms from torment to teacher, it becomes the guide that leads you home. You will not be who you were, and that's the point. You will not fit into the mold you once shaped yourself to please. You will not laugh at what once distracted you. You will not crave what once numbed you, because you are shedding the skin of imitation. And beneath it is something alive, something raw, something true that is the rebirth. Not a return to what was, but a revelation of what always was hidden beneath the roles. This is the sacred rhythm of individuation. Not a straight line, but a spiral. Not achievement, but embodiment. You do not become whole by being good. You become whole by being real, by being fully human, fully feeling fully alive. And that means breaking, that means burning, that means standing in the ashes and daring to breathe again. So if you are breaking, let it break. If you are falling, fall fully. If the life you built no longer fits, step out of it. Naked, shivering, trembling but true. Because the fire will not consume what is essential, it will only burn what you no longer need. And on the other side, there is something waiting. Not perfection, not certainty, but presence, depth, wholeness, and a self that no longer needs to pretend. This is why you must break to be reborn, not to be fixed, not to be better, but to be real, to be whole, to be free. The fire that forges the real you. There is a fire that does not burn the body, but sears the soul. A fire not made of flame, but of truth. Raw, ancient, unbearable, to the part of you that still clings to illusion. And yet, it is this fire that forges the real you. Not the you built from expectation or safety or survival, but the you that has always been waiting deep beneath the surface rolls. This fire is not comfort, it is confrontation. It strips, it scorches. It consumes everything false so that something eternal can emerge. That is the essence of inner transformation, not decoration, not improvement, but death and rebirth. The path to wholeness begins not with light, but with fire. Carl Jung understood this well. He said, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And the darkness is not evil. It is unexplored. It is the pain you avoid, the rage you repress, the dreams you've buried beneath compromise. To enter that fire is to enter yourself. To stop pretending. To meet your shadow. Not as a threat, but as a truth. The parts of you you've disowned, the impulses. You hide the power you've placed in others' hands. It is all there waiting to be reclaimed, and it will not be gentle. The fire tests you, not to punish, but to purify. To see what can withstand the burning your persona will not. The image you've spent years protecting will curl in the heat. Because it was never real. It was a mask crafted by fear and validation. But the soul does not care for masks. It cares for essence. What remains after the burning is what you truly are. And that is where your power lives, not in the performance, but in the presence. Not in the persona, but in the self. You were not born to be small. You were not made to be manageable. You are not here to fit into the shape that pleases others. You are here to blaze, to ignite the dormant force within you, and allow it to reshape the world around you. But to do that, you must allow the fire to stir in not just the gentle warmth, but the blazing, unrelenting flame that calls you to account, that reveals where you've lied to yourself, where you've shrunk, where you've betrayed your own knowing. This is not self-help. This is self-confrontation. This is psychological alchemy. The alchemists called it the negrido, the blackening, the first stage of transformation, the breakdown, the burning away of what no longer serves. This is where many stop because they think breaking is failing. But breaking is sacred. It means something inauthentic is dying. And if you stay, if you hold yourself in the fire without fleeing, you will begin to see what is real. The gold inside the ruin, the self inside the shadow. This is the second birth, not of body but of being. The dreams you've ignored begin to speak louder here. Symbols rise. Old archetypes stir the warrior, the rebel, the wounded child, the wild one. They are not fantasies. They are maps. They are voices of the unconscious, trying to guide you back, not to who you were, but to who you are. You begin to see that what you called problems were really invitations. What you labeled madness was just too much truth compressed into too small a container. And the fire breaks the container. It demands expansion, maturity, sovereignty. You will feel pain, you will feel fear, but these are not signs to retreat. They are signs you are in the crucible. And crucibles are not comfortable, they are necessary. They are where the elements mix, melt, and reform. Where the old identity dies, so that the self can emerge not as an idea, but as a presence. And a frequency, an energy that no longer seeks validation because it is rooted in something deeper than approval. It is rooted in the truth of your own being. Most will not walk this path. It is too wild, too unpredictable, too costly to the ego. But if you are hearing this, something in you has already stepped in, something ancient has already begun to awaken. You are not here for comfort, you are here for fire. You are here to be burned clean of illusion, to remember the part of you that was never afraid, never silent, never domesticated, the part of you that has waited lifetimes for this moment. You may not know how to do it. That's okay. The fire knows. Your job is not to control it, but to surrender to it. To allow it to move through, you dissolve the false and resurrect the real. You don't have to know who you're becoming. You only have to be willing to let go of who you're not. That letting go is the heat. That surrender is the spark. That is where the transformation begins. And from the other side, you will not rise as a version of who you were. You will rise as something new, not better, not more polished, but more true, more whole. A being forged in silence and fire. A soul that no longer seeks to be seen because it has seen itself. And that vision cannot be unseen, that truth cannot be forgotten, that fire, once it touches you, becomes your home. This is the fire that forges the real you. Let it burn, let it baptize, let it reveal everything you are looking for is on the other side of this flame, not out there, but in you. In the ashes, in the ember that refuses to die. You were not meant to escape the fire, you were meant to become it. When the self calls, you must answer. There comes a moment when something ancient stirs within you, a quiet yet thunderous feeling. That what you've called your life is not your life at all. It is a construct, a mask, a stage play. You were handed the script for before you ever learned your own voice. And then suddenly the script no longer fits, the lines sound false in your mouth, the applause feels distant. Something deeper begins to whisper, not from the mind, but from the soul. This is the call of the self. Not the self you invented or polished or performed. The self that existed before the world told you who to be. And when the self calls you, must answer. Not later, not when it's convenient. But now, because to ignore it is to betray your own becoming. It does not speak in commands. It speaks in symbols. In the heaviness you feel when you smile and don't mean it, in the dreams that linger long after waking, in the inexplicable sorrow that arises in moments of silence. This is not dysfunction. This is the deeper order trying to reassert itself, the unconscious breaking through the crust of the persona, and make no mistake, it will break through. The more you resist it, the more it haunts you. Carl Jung warned us what you resist not only persists, it grows stronger. And the self does not negotiate with your ego. It does not wait for permission. It arrives like a storm and demands everything false be torn away. At first, you will think something is wrong. You may call it burnout, depression, anxiety. But look closer. These are the signs of awakening the psyche, destabilizing the facade, the soul reclaiming the throne. You are not breaking down. You are breaking open. You are not lost. You are being unmade. So something greater can emerge, that the call of the self is not an invitation to become more. It is a summons to become real. And to become real, you must pass through the fire. The fire is not outside of you. It lives in your shadow, the parts of you you've rejected, the hidden, disowned, the anger you call ugly, the grief you bury, the desires you fear. These are not flaws. They are fragments of the self exiled for survival. And now they return, not as enemies, but as initiators. They will not ask nicely. They will roar. They will disrupt. They will demand to be felt. Because until they are integrated, you are incomplete. And the self is wholeness. It is not perfection, it is union. The marriage of light and dark, strength and softness, wound and wisdom. To walk the path of the self is to become mythic, not famous, not extraordinary in the world's eyes, but archetypal, alive to the ancient rhythms that pulse through every human soul, the hero, the wanderer, the wounded healer, the wise fool. These are not stories outside you. They are blueprints within you. They awaken when the self calls. They come alive in your descent, your crisis, your loneliness. They carry the codes for your transformation, but only if you dare to live them, not as entertainment, but as embodiment. And this path will cost you. It will cost you the approval of those who loved your mask. It will cost you the comfort of predictability. It may even cost you everything you thought was essential, but in its place, it will give you something indestructible. Integrity, presence, depth, a soul that no longer asks for permission to exist, a being who stands rooted in their own truth, unmoved by the winds of the world. This is not arrogance. This is sovereignty, and it cannot be inherited. It must be earned in silence, in solitude, in the unbearable intimacy of meeting yourself. The self does not offer shortcuts. It offers truth, and truth will stretch you. Strip you, shatter you. Not to harm you, but to hollow you out, so that what is real can take up residence in you. This is individuation, the soul's pilgrimage toward wholeness. And you cannot walk it halfway. You either answer the call, or you stay asleep in a life that isn't yours. There is no middle path, and yet the self is patient. Even as it demands urgency, it moves with timelessness. It will wait a lifetime if it must. But once you've heard it, you can never unhear it. Once you've seen the truth, you can never return to unseeing. The illusion may tempt you again through pleasure, through praise, through distraction. But your soul will know, and the knowing will ache. Until you return, until you bow to the altar within and say yes. Yes to the unknown. Yes to the descent. Yes to becoming. You will walk alone, not because you are unloved, but because few have the courage to walk this far inward. But in that aloneness, you will meet something sacred, the silence beneath all sound, the presence beneath all masks, the truth that needs no audience. And there you will find yourself not as an idea, but as a force, unshakable, eternal yours. This is the path. Not out there, but in. Not upward, but downward into the depths, into the wound, into the wild beauty of your own unfiltered existence. The self is not a destination. It is the return to origin, the reclaiming of essence, the homecoming to who you've always been, beneath the noise. And when it calls you, must answer. Because if you don't, nothing else will ever feel quite right again. And the world needs you, not the version shaped by fear, but the self shaped by truth. The one who walks through fire and does not lose their soul. The one who meets the shadow and does not flinch. The one who becomes whole, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. Answer the call. Burn the mask. Walk the path and become what you were always meant to be. The pain of growth is sacred. There is a kind of pain that does not come from injury or cruelty. It comes from expansion. It is not inflicted by the world, but summoned by the soul. It arrives quietly in moments of stillness, in moments when you thought you were finally safe. And then something stretches inside you, a cracking, a burning, a silent rupture that no one sees, but you feel in every cell. This is not the pain of breaking down. It is the pain of growing, of becoming, of shedding the skin that no longer fits and standing raw in your own becoming. The pain of growth is sacred because it marks the place where something new is born. Carl Jung knew this pain. He did not pathologize it. He revered it. He understood that the soul does not evolve in straight lines or sterile rooms. It evolves in spirals and storms, in dreams that unsettle and losses that unmake you. Growth for Jung was not a goal to be achieved, but a confrontation to be endured. A dialogue between the known and the unknown, between the conscious self and the vast, untamed wilderness of the unconscious. And that dialogue hurts because it means facing what you've avoided, feeling what you've suppressed, and letting go of what once defined you. No one tells you that healing can feel like dying, that awakening can feel like madness, that finding yourself can mean losing everything familiar. But this is the cost of becoming real. And the pain that comes with it is not a punishment, it is a purification, an alchemical fire that burns away the false so the essential can remain. And when that fire comes, your only task is to stay with it, to breathe through it, to trust that what feels like an ending is also an opening. We speak of growth as if it's glamorous, as if it comes with clarity and joy. But real growth is disorienting. It leaves you on your knees. It strips you of certainty. It demands that you unlearn what kept you safe and step into what makes you whole. And in that space between the old and the new, you grieve the illusions that comforted you, the identities that gave you belonging, the dreams that no longer match your soul. This grief is holy. It is the mourning of the mask, and every tear waters the roots of your becoming. The unconscious begins to stir during this grief. Dreams shift, symbols emerge, old wounds resurface, not to harm you, but to be healed in the light of your awareness. The shadow rises not as a villain, but as a wounded child, king to be seen. And if you can stay present, if you can meet the shadow with compassion rather than fear, you begin to reclaim what you lost in childhood. Your vitality, your voice, your wholeness. This reclamation is slow, messy, sacred, and it begins with allowing the pain, not fighting it, not fixing it, but honoring it as the gateway to integration. The archetypes guide you here. The wounded healer, the phoenix, the wanderer. These are not abstract figures. They are patterns alive within you. They emerge when you are brought to the edge, when nothing external can save you, when the only way forward is inward. The wounded healer teaches that your deepest wound is the source of your deepest gift. The phoenix shows that the ashes are not the end, but the soil of resurrection. And the wanderer reminds you that the path is not supposed to be clear. It is supposed to be felt, and the feeling will hurt before it heals. In these moments, the ego will resist. It will bargain. It will tell you that pain means something is wrong. But pain is not the enemy. Numbness is. Denial is, because those are the forces that keep you asleep. Pain wakes you up. Pain says you are alive. You are changing. You are on the threshold of something that cannot be seen from the outside. And when you stop trying to escape it, when you turn toward it, you find the sacred beneath the suffering. A whisper from the self. Keep going. This matters. This is the way home. You will be misunderstood. Not everyone will see the sacredness in your pain. Some will tell you to get over it, to move on, to be strong. But strength is not silence. Strength is not pretending you're fine. True strength is presence. It is crying without shame, breaking without apology, feeling without a deadline. This is the courage Jung spoke of, the courage to face the inner world without armor, to meet the unconscious without projection, to walk through the valley without needing to be rescued. And there in the valley, you begin to see yourself more clearly, not as a collection of roles, but as a living process, a soul in motion, a psyche unfolding. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be whole. And wholeness requires rupture, requires descent, requires the sacred ache of growth. You cannot bypass it. You cannot intellectualize it. You must live it with your body, your heart, your soul. And when you do, when you say yes to the pain that births you, you emerge different, not fixed, but forged. The old wounds may still echo, the old fears may still whisper, but they no longer own you because you faced them, felt them, integrated them. And that is the miracle of growth. Not that it makes the pain vanish, but that it transforms your relationship to it. So you stop fearing it, you stop resisting it, you begin to honor it as sacred, as necessary, as part of what it means to be fully, fiercely human. This is the journey. This is the fire. This is the holy ache that changes everything. Do not turn away. Do not numb it. Let it open you. Let it strip you. Let it break you into the shape of your own becoming. The pain of growth is sacred, and one day you will thank it for setting you free. Your true self lives in the dark. You will not find your true self in the places they told you to look. Not in the spotlight, not in the roles that earn applause, not in the curated image polished and filtered for approval. The truth of who you are does not rise with the sun. It waits in the dark, beneath the performance, beneath the persona, beneath the masks you learned to wear so early you forgot you were wearing them. Your true self lives in the dark, not because it is evil, but because it was exiled, hidden in the shadows of your psyche, where no one could judge it, control it, or kill its flame. But the darkness is not your enemy, it is your origin. And if you want to be whole, you must return. This return is not a regression, it is a descent, a necessary initiation into the mystery of your own depths. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the hidden half, the denied twin, the repressed and rejected dimensions of your humanity. But what he saw with piercing clarity was this: the shadow is not just a repository of your flaws, it holds your lost gold, your unlived life, your primal power, your authenticity. And to integrate it is not to become darker, it is to become real. The light you seek is not above you. It is buried within you, beneath the rubble of survival, silence and shame. You were trained to fear the dark, to associate it with wrongness, with danger, with things that must be fixed or cleansed or cast away. But the psyche is not so binary. It is mythic, symbolic, alchemical. And darkness in that mythic realm is not just absence, it is womb. It is soil. It is the place where seeds crack open, where life gestates, where transformation begins. Your pain lives there. Your rage lives there. Your voice long silenced by performance lives there. And so does your freedom. Freedom is not found in escaping darkness. It is found in entering it willingly, consciously, reverently. This is why every mythic hero descends before they rise. Orpheus descending into the underworld. Inanna stripped naked before the throne of death. Christ harrowing hell before resurrection. These are not stories of the past. They are blueprints of the psyche. They are telling you what Jung made clear. If you want to become who you are, you must face what you fear inside yourself, and you must look into the eyes of your own shadow and say, "I see you, I will not run." At first, what you see may terrify you. The anger you denied, the envy you pretended not to feel, the lust, the grief, the despair, the shame. But these emotions are not your downfall. They are doorways, emotions buried alive. Do not die, they distort. They whisper from the unconscious. They erupt in moments you do not understand. They project onto others, shaping your reality from behind the scenes. But when you turn inward, when you light a candle in the cave and walk in, instead of away, they soften. They speak. They begin to tell you their stories. And if you listen long enough, you begin to see the truth. None of them came to harm you. They came to protect you. They came to save the parts of you that the world tried to erase. The world rewarded your mask, but your soul longs for nakedness, and nakedness is only possible in the dark, where nothing is staged, where nothing is seen for show, but only for truth. The darkness is where the ego has no performance left, where the psyche breaks open and the self begins to rise. Not as a fantasy, but as a force. A remembering the ancient you, the original you. The one who was never afraid to feel, to want to say no, to say yes, to be wild, to be still. This is what lives in the dark, and this is what waits for your return. You cannot think your way there. You cannot talk your way around it. The journey is through the dreams that disturb you, through the memories that ache, through the silence that threatens to consume you. And the further you go, the more the symbols begin to guide you. A serpent in your dreams, transformation, a cave, initiation, a flood, overwhelming emotion that seeks to be honored, not controlled. These are not hallucinations. They are the language of the unconscious, the poetry of the soul. And it speaks most clearly in the dark. Here the anima and animus stir. The inner masculine and feminine, long projected onto others, begin to return home. No longer split, no longer at war. The masculine no longer tyrannical, the feminine no longer hidden in shame. They begin to dance within you, protect and receive, assert and allow, create and destroy together. This is integration. This is union. This is the wholeness Jung spoke of. Not perfection, not purity, but totality, fullness, aliveness. And it is forged in darkness. In the sacred, terrifying, beautiful dark, the place the modern world has forgotten, the place you've been taught to fear. But make no mistake, everything you are becoming depends on whether you answer its call. The world may never applaud it. You may not get likes or validation or external permission. But the soul doesn't need permission. It needs space. It needs silence. It needs darkness to remember itself. So go there. Go into the cave, into the dream, into the ache. Light a candle with your courage and walk deeper than you've ever walked before. Your true self is not waiting on a mountaintop. It is curled in the shadows, watching, hoping you'll finally turn around. Not to save it, but to remember it, to welcome it, to love it back into being. You do not need to become anyone new. You need to come back to the one who never left. Your true self lives in the dark, and it is not broken. It is not dangerous. It is divine.